Hello, and thank you for joining this brief presentation on model-based testing with IBM Systems Engineering Rhapsody and how you can use it to increase your quality and accelerate delivery of your products to customers. If you're doing model-based engineering already, adopting model-based systems engineering testing isn't that much more difficult. In Rhapsody, go down to the selection for Test Conductor and select that, at which point you get a user interface that allows you to configure the user experience with Test Conductor. So for example, what kind of test architecture do you want to develop? How do you want to work with that test architecture in a gray box or a black box style? And finally, what kind of testing mode do you want to work in? Assertion-based or an animation-based. Once you've selected that, then you can right-click on a class or a system that you want to test and say create test architecture, at which point it develops a test package, and within that test package creates an entire architecture laid out for you, including test component, test context, and a container for test results. And then finally, as part of running your tests, it will calculate code coverage results, model coverage, and requirement coverage results. This is done using the UML 2.0 testing profile. This is an industry standard OMG developed standard for testing. With Test Conductor, we also provide supporting documentation for the underlying certification standard that you'll need to report to, whether it's aerospace, medical, rail. This validation toolkit provides documentation, but also allows you to validate Test Conductor in your environment. It's TÜV certified. One of the reports we can create is the coverage report. Here you can see what portions of the code have been exercised already through your testing. You can also see the model coverage by test cases, and then you can see the detailed coverage for each of those model artifacts. And the green shows that you've covered all of that. The red says you've not executed that yet. We can also create requirements coverage ports describing requirements on the left-hand side versus use cases or operations or functions, and what different test objects those are covered by. Finally, the tool beyond Test Conductor, called ATG or Automatic Test Generation, allows for full automated model analysis. It creates the test cases for you and then goes on to test them. I developed this diagram here, this report, from scratch in under 60 seconds. So I can see that for the testing, the test cases that I've got prepared so far, looks like I'm only testing about half of my overall model. I mentioned the documentation that comes with it. What I want to show is that the supporting documentation describes, in this case for aerospace, the DO-178 levels A, B, C, and D versus how Rhapsody and Rhapsody Test Conductor satisfy those subsections. So for example, here you see the requirements traceability needs to be done for level A, and here we describe how we do that at the model level and at the code level. This gives you a head start towards documenting and certifying your product. Further, we provide these different tables as supporting documentation. Now, once you've developed a script that accomplishes what you want, you'd like to save that script and be able to upload it to the testing engine called Rational Engineering Test Manager. So here you see an example. I've got a test script that I'm satisfied with. I can upload it to Engineering Test Manager, and now I see that test script is available for use and for driving from a test case. One of the ways to think about testing is to do risk-based testing. So that's a way of saying, with limited resources and limited time, what should I test first? And so this gives you the ability to create a aggregated risk for community and individual opinion as well. Here I state that I'm concerned there's an aggressive schedule and insufficient test resources. These roll up to a larger community risk, the point being that the tests that are identified with a high risk are the ones that I want to run first. Now finally, once I'm able to run these test scripts and test cases, I want to see traceability. So in this example, I have a test case which has a high risk. It's validating a particular system requirement, and here's the script that was actually used to do the testing. And then finally, here is the Rhapsody model artifact that it's validating. Now, as part of this work, we provide over 60 metrics just related to tests. So if you want to get a report of test cases that are continually failing, that's one of the metrics we provide. So the value is, after a while, these metrics will be developed enough that you'll see which ones are always green, always passing, and which ones require constant attention. Further, for documentation purposes, as well as real-time analysis, we provide dashboards that show test coverage, requirements versus not covered requirements, and as well test results, failed or passed or inconclusive. As far as testing, we can show which tests passed, which ones failed, and then in which test plan they failed. So finally, want to recap by saying, using the standardized UML 2.0 testing profile, we're able to develop 3 different types of reports that are delivered in conjunction with supporting documentation that allow you to get accelerated delivery of certification evidence for your product and to your customer. Thanks for watching.